for tuning into this episode of the Blackatalyst Podcast. It's me, Kyle, your host, and today we have a very special guest, creator and founder of Black Girl Sunscreen, Shontay Lundy. So I basically have some topics that I want to discuss today, but before I get into that, I want to know, who is Shontay Lundy?
Going to, predominantly white high school and college, it has definitely shaped who I am today.
No, I definitely get that.
So yeah, after doing that, I moved down to Miami to do my graduate work because I have an MBA in business, and now I'm currently in Los Angeles.
So you went from New York to Miami to Los Angeles?
Mm-hmm.
In that order, exactly?
Mm-hmm.
That's it, Jerry. When did you go to Miami?
2004. I know I look young.
Did that? Nah, you do look young. I would never guess. I really would never guess.
Yeah.
So
I already know I'm like 15 years older than you.
Maybe. I don't know. But actually, I want to address, though, going to predominantly white schools, because myself, I went to a boarding school in Long Island, so I kind of understand that experience a little bit, being coming from like an inner city environment or environment that's predominantly African American, going to a school that's predominantly white. It was kind of a different scenery, because you're used to one way of life and they're used to a different way of life, and you're trying to all commingle and coexist in the same environment, go to school, pursue whatever areas you're trying to pursue. But it definitely creates an interesting dichotomy.
A great word. But in terms of being like a chameleon, right, and being able to adapt into these different environments and situations, I find being able to thrive in those environments are beneficial, right, to adulthood. And that's one of the reasons why I chose, let's just say, like, a SUNY Cortland versus a HBCU, right? Because that's always an option too.
Of course. I got you. So once you went to Miami, is that where you first had the idea for your company, or was it in Los Angeles?
No, and I'm actually just going to relocate really quick.
No, you're good.
Nope. So idea started so it wasn't exactly in that order. It wasn't New York, Miami, Cali. It was New York, Miami, Cali, back to Miami, then back to Cali. I know, a lot of moving around.
Okay, so you went from New York to Miami to Cali, yep. Back to Miami, back to Cali.
Yeah. Yep.
And did you fronted the financial costs every time you had to move?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, that's a lot of money.
Pretty much. It is, especially if you actually relocate your entire house, right? So like I put my things, inside of like a moving pod and then shipped it across country. So that was really where the extra finances came. But to answer your question, you asked me, where did the idea of Black Girl Sunscreen come up? And moving to California was a really amazing experience, because there's a lot of creatives here, right? In terms of, the entertainment business, movie business, the acting business, dancing. There's just so much creative juices flowing. And me being a woman of the sun, living in Miami for 12 years, and then coming here and hiking, doing so many outdoor activities, and having a diverse group of friends, I was always encouraged to wear sunscreen. And I would always be like, nah, chill. Like, I'm not putting on the sunscreen that makes me look like a ghost or makes me feel uncomfortable, when I wear it. So I just started to just get like super dark, and which was totally fine, but it was just like, okay, you should be wearing the sunscreen the amount of time you're spending in the sun, Shontay. And I was like, okay, well, let me just Google to see like what products there are on the market. And I put in keywords such as like sunscreen for women of color, sunscreen for brown skin, sunscreen for ethnic skin, and came up so shorthanded that I was like, oh, this is clearly an issue. This is clearly a problem. Is there something I can do about it, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to go through that process in your mind first. Like, it's one thing to acknowledge that there's an issue or a gap in the market or a white space, but if you can actually like implement a solution, that's another thing. So then I just started to think about like, okay, what will it take to create this sunscreen for melanated skin, because I can't be the only dark skinned woman. You can see me, right? We're pretty similar complexion, but I
Yeah.
can't be the only dark skinned woman that is looking for a product that's going to protect their skin from the sun without having them look crazy. So I said, okay, um, let's start to talk to cosmetic manufacturers, right? Because that's who would make the products. And even figuring out who would do that still took some thinking,
Mm.
right? Um, and then, approaching them via phone and telling them my idea, and then having at least 5 out of the 7 manufacturers that I contact tell me that I was crazy. Because of, when you hear a Shontay on the phone, you automatically think black, right?
Mm.
So who is this black girl coming into this space that black people aren't in, and pitching this idea, right? The name Black Girl Sunscreen is super niche. It's super, um, at the time it was just kind of like you might have had to explain it for someone that doesn't know the culture to understand it. So the pushback that I was getting from manufacturers were like, well, the word girl, is that for like 7-year-olds, right? But
Mm.
really, the word girl is in term of endearment, right? So like I can call my friends like, hey girl, like what's going on, right? I would not say to my mom's friend, hey girl, right?
Mm.
Because that's inappropriate, right? We're not in the same peer group. So really, girl is just a term of endearment. So explaining that to them first was already the first hurdle. The second hurdle was making sure that the ingredients that I wanted to use for the formula were the actual ingredients in the sunscreen. So, things that would moisturize our skin so we didn't look ashy. Like that's important to me.
Mm.
Being environmentally friendly, that's also important to me. And I had manufacturers say like, hey, these are the ingredients that come in sunscreen, and it's been done like this for 20 years, and we're not changing it. Well, then we couldn't continue that conversation, right? Because that's
Mm.
not. I didn't want to put something on the market that currently existed. So I answered your question in a very long way, but that's how I got started, and it was really that move to Los Angeles that just got my creative juices flowing. Not even that I was looking for something. It just kind of came to me.
And no, that's definitely, it did answer in a long way, but I appreciate it though. Definitely a lot of value in there. What I
Yeah.
really appreciate about your product is I feel like it gives so much empowerment in itself. Like just going through some of the social media and watching like the girls put it on, you can see that they have a different glow to them. They smile. They feel so empowered. They feel like they can go out and conquer anything, which is amazing. And I think that you did a great job developing the product and developing the brand itself. But my next question I want to know is, once you fully had the product after you finished the manufacturing process, the most difficult aspect I feel like most entrepreneurs face is generating sales. So what was the process? What was your initial marketing strategy to go get some sales?
Um, so in 2017, when I actually thought of Black Girl Sunscreen, like the marketing aspect and getting sales to me was like easy. It was like a no-brainer, right? Because I say this because we live in a world of technology. You and I are doing a conversation face to face, podcasting and things like that. So in my mind, it was like, okay, we're gonna launch an Instagram, and we're just going to let the world know that we exist, right? But it
Right.
takes more than that, right? It's more than just posting a photo. It's how do you reach that consumer? How do you resonate? How do you convey a message that hasn't really been articulated before? So it was more of like, okay, we got this. We're going to create really clean images that represent us, that show us in different complexions, in different environments, not just the beach, but maybe outside taking a walk, maybe just running an errand, showing the everyday Black woman doing everyday things, right? So that was really our core messaging. I am not the face of the brand because I want women of color to know that Black Girl Sunscreen is for all complexions, not just for a dark complexion or a light complexion or a medium skin complexion. So we actually had a post go viral. And it was a customer that purchased Black Girl Sunscreen, and she posted it on Reddit. And then literally it got picked up by every online publication there is. So Essence, Glamour, Elle, Yahoo, and it just snowballed from there, right? So literally it just took one article to create awareness. And then after that, it was kind of like, hey, skin estheticians were reaching out, like, hey, do you wholesale your product? And at first, I wasn't really open to that idea, but really, wholesaling is what drives a lot of mass
Business, yeah.
companies. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, let me try this out. And what I found is that skin estheticians are literally the front line of our business, because they're the ones that are actually, out here educating their client, right? So if you go in to receive a facial, right, a skin esthetician will say, okay, you have, maybe like a dry skin or oily skin. Here are the products that I recommend for you. And within the products that they recommend, there's always a sunscreen. There's always an SPF. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's Black Girl Sunscreen that they're recommending, but they're now educating women of color that, hey, sunscreen is very important to use, right? So it's not now just Black Girl Sunscreen talking about women of color wearing sunscreen. It's more than one outlet talking about women of color wearing sunscreen. So sales started to come in different funnels, right? So it's not just our brand, but it's skin estheticians, it's other black.coms that are like, hey, your product is awesome. I talk to women of color about different skin products. We'd like to carry you. Boom. Right. So again, it's more than one person talking about it. And we've done so much online that we got the attention of a national retailer. So the national retailer was like, oh man, we love what you're doing. We really want to understand and prove that your mission and vision resonates with your community. Let's do a pilot. Let's just do a test in our store. Okay, cool. So we do the test in their store, and I mean, we blew the doors off the hinges, right? In that pilot, because this was the test. Can we drive new customers to that store, to that major retailer? And that's what we did by aggressive marketing campaigns, by being, visible in the community. So, another way to drive sales is participating in trade shows, whether it be a hair show, whether it be a skin show, whether it be a show for, women, whether it be just a podcasting show. You have to make yourself visible and create attention, because if you don't have attention on you or what you're doing, then you're irrelevant.
That's true. You said so many valuable things just now.
So that's how we started to create the sales, and it is an ongoing process about creating sales. We've had many hurdles as a sunscreen brand for Black women, because the first hurdle is, do Black people even wear sunscreen?
Yeah, I was about to say, because that's a
right?
huge myth,
yeah. So like that's the first hurdle. The second hurdle is like, okay, now we have to educate, convince, and change a mindset, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, after the convincing and the education piece, now they got to buy. Right. Then on top of that, it's like I'm telling you all the process, right? So then on top of that, it's being a Black owned business, right? And the scrutiny that we get for being small and Black, like, well, why is your shipping $5.99, or why is your price point higher than the rest, right? And that's because we're not able to produce mass yet, right? To cut costs down. And I don't know if a lot of consumers really understand that concept. So there's so many different things that we have to navigate just to get the one sale.
Yeah, no. Jeez. So I have a quick question though. Just based on what you just said previously about the skin estheticians, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, would you recommend that people, when starting a business, that they kind of, before they start, look to see what opportunities they have in the market to kind of I wouldn't say license, but find a person in a professional industry that could utilize the product as well, so you can kind of drive sales that way?
Yeah, it totally depends on the product, but I definitely think before going to market, I think that you should have a distribution strategy in terms of who else is going to help drive your business and drive your sales. So did I have skin estheticians per se on the list? Not necessarily, but I had salons on the list, right?
Gotcha.
We can be in not necessarily a tanning salon, but we could be in beauty salons, because some beauty salons carry an array of products. Could we be in barbershops? Depends on the barbershop. For sure, absolutely. So who else can carry Black Girl Sunscreen? And I think that that is definitely something a business owner, depending on the product, should assess is who else can help? Who else can hold hands with you to propel your business forward? Or is it just going to be the business? I mean, you think of major companies like a Ray-Ban, okay? Let's just say for an example, you can find standalone Ray-Ban stores, right, in the mall,
Right.
but you can also find pop-ups or booths within Macy's, within Nordstrom's of Ray-Ban, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with Black Girl Sunscreen. We're just put in different outlets. So I definitely think strategizing and seeing who can partner with you would be beneficial depending on your goals for the business.
Gotcha. And also, you talked about marketing campaigns. I just want to think, like, with the process of how you structure marketing, is it a process that you just do by yourself? Do you have like a team? Like, do you work with like creators at the same time and all work and plan of how you're gonna go about a marketing campaign, or is it more like ad hoc? Like, I think this is gonna work. We're gonna go and just do it like this.
No. So initially, Black Girl Sunscreen started off as a one-woman show, maybe a two-person show, because we had a dedicated web developer who's it's imperative to have a solid website, in my opinion. But anyway, we started off as just Shontay, right? And I saw what was going on around me. I saw that you could excel on social, whether it's, you got to find your medium, but whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, whatever it was. And now, as we've developed and grown, our team has grown as well. So we do have a marketing team as well as a complete social team. And these are women that oversee their respective channels. So we have somebody for Black Girl Sunscreen. We have a kids line called BGS Kids. So we have somebody that monitors that page. We have a pop and Twitter page.
Really?
So somebody, oh yeah. So we have somebody that manages that. We have somebody that manages TikTok. So we have actually an individual person that manages these different channels, because even though it's the same voice, it's kind of different content. You could use the same message, but it should be not the same message. You could use the same picture, but it has to be a different message.
Or
So these are
tailored in
things
like a
that have,
different way. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah, it's okay. So these are things that have developed over time. This is something that I did not have when I initially started, because I didn't have the resources or the finances. It's not until, we started to grow and get the sales that I'm like, okay, I can now budget to bring someone on to monitor this. These are things that I had to juggle on my own. I also, being on this entrepreneur journey, it's a continuing education. So I'm a huge, I would say, advocate of learning everything that you can, learning bits and pieces of every department, so you can share that knowledge, right? You can be dangerous in little ways.
Yeah, that's kind of, not to let out my secret here, why I kind of started the podcast as well, though, because I wanted to be able to learn as much information in different industries, so I could have that knowledge and market in that way. I know about this, I know about that, and kind of just also personally for myself be knowledgeable of many different industries. But my next question is, your products have been flying off of Target shelves, and I want to know, what was the process like of getting into a large retailer?
Hard.
I can imagine it's hard.
Yeah. And we get that question all the time, but the simple answer is, I got to bring it back to what I said earlier, is that when you work hard and when you do these small things, it seems small, whether it's be present on Instagram, be present on Facebook, participating in trade shows, word of mouth, then when someone is looking for you, it makes it almost really impossible for them not to find you. So, if you search on Google sunscreen for dark complexions, Black Girl Sunscreen is coming up. We're literally like 13 pages deep on Google, right? Our visibility is insane. So when it comes to having a large retailer find us, like, we're not hiding, and that's what happened. They were looking for something, and we made it very easy for them to find us. So that was really the process of them discovering us. But if we dial it back, like, we were in the trenches, right? We were in the trenches, whether we had 10,000 followers at that time when they found us, because that's how many we had when they found us last June. We're at 42, all authentic. We've blocked like every bundle page, if you get that reference. But but in terms of really just working really, really hard, that's what we did, and that's what we will continue to do, is to keep attention on the brand.
No, you definitely did a great job, because when I remember I was going on my phone and I was like, this is genius. Like, I gotta find out who owns this company, because it makes so much sense. And the fact that and nobody thought of it, you're just a genius. The fact that you're able to create it and execute it how you executed it is probably.
Thank you. So what happened? Did you see an ad come through your feed or something, or what happened?
No, I was on just scrolling through Twitter, and I saw it on official Black Wall Street posted it. And I was like, nah, I gotta find out who owns. I gotta talk to them, because this is beast. But no, you did.
Yeah, but you see, like, but even with like that, right? Official Black Wall Street, right? Like, that's the page that posts like what's the now, right? Like, what's popping right now, and I think that's what brands and people have to understand, is like, how relevant are you, right? So that's what Black Wall Street talks about, is like the current events, right? And Black Girl Sunscreen is current, and we intend to stay current. And you know, when you go to our Instagram, yes, it's product related, it's you know, education piece, but it's also things too, celebrating excellence, celebrating Black excellence. So you find an array of just kind of subject matter but that's relevant within our community.
No, true. I know you spoke just now about Black Girl Sunscreen staying relevant for a long time. Do you have any plans in the future of expanding your catalog beyond Black Girl Sunscreen, or?
That's a good question. The recognition that we just got most recently is we became the first Black indie brand to have permanent placement in a national retailer, right?
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So what that means is, so we originally started on an end cap, and an end cap is seasonal. It goes away with different things. So like, you can walk into a store and see an end cap for, I don't know, Super Bowl merchandise, like Super Bowl chips and like beer or whatever, and Coca-Cola, right? Or, you know, for Easter, they have things like for the Easter bunny and eggs and yada, 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 okay? So we started off with something like that, but because we did well, they said, okay, now you're gonna live with the other sunscreens, right? So now we go toe-to-toe with the national brands, like the more traditional brands. I don't need to name drop them, but we know who they are. So when you ask me if we have plans on expanding, you know, maybe outside of sunscreen or even our SKUs, the plan, of course, is to get more real estate. Meaning, like, if you go into the store and we only have 1 or 2 SKUs on the shelf, we only have that much space, right? But the goal is to have that much space, right?
I never even thought about that yet.
Yeah, so like, if you look at, let's just say, like a Neutrogena, right? They have like 8 SKUs, right? So they have like that much space. Black Girl Sunscreen only has 2, so we only have like that much space. So to answer your question, yes, in order to become mass and global, we have to expand product-wise and even store-wise. Now, does that mean that we jump category? Do we jump ship from sunscreen or sun care to, I don't know, hair care or cosmetics? We like being in our sun care space, right? And we know that we've done well because not that there's not much competition, but you've seen a lot of you know, indie brands emerge within the hair care space.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Right. So, and it wasn't even like we don't want to enter the hair care space. My idea was just sunscreen, and we jumped into it. So what we do well with is sun care. So we need to master that first before we're like, hey, let's dabble in cosmetics, or hey, let's dabble in I don't know, something else. But right now we wanna really just hunker down on what we started with and really just nail it.
Yeah, you said that perfectly, because I think you're very well positioned in this industry, because there's nobody, I feel like personally, that's going to create a sunscreen brand and compete with you at the level that you have right now in branding, being in that you're in a large retailer. So
Well, check this out. Check this out, Kyle. Um, so what has been the most very interesting is that our competitors, and this is a trend now, right? Our competitors now market to people of color. Okay,
Mm.
so literally, it's sunscreen season is in full effect. So what they've done is they've created products that are Black girl friendly, and then they'll market it to Black women, whether it's on the IG timeline, Facebook ad, or whatever. And they'll literally have like a black hand, and they'll put the sunscreen on the hand and say rubs in with no white residue, right? So what that means is that those big companies see little old Black girl sunscreen, right? And are doing something that we've done a couple years ago. And so when you say that like a brand can't compete, in terms of our marketing and our name, no, they can't. But in terms of product development, they're so far ahead of us because they've been in the game for 12, 13 years. They just never thought like, hey, Black people are wearing sunscreen, really? Right? So now they've duplicated or mimicked what we know is the most intimidating reason of why Black women are not wearing sunscreen. So now they're not us. There's only one Black girl sunscreen, but other brands trying to do it like us, absolutely, right? They're like, hey, we want that market share too. So it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing because they see us. We see that they see us, right? It's all good. It's all good. But the positive is it's because since we're still an emerging brand and they might be a really big brand, is they're just creating their awareness as well, right? They're creating their awareness as well because we don't have that reach. But now Black Girl Sunscreen is giving the consumer an option, right? So that's how we make that into a positive. It's not even being competitive. It's like, how do we get that education piece out there to our community? Because most of us didn't grow up wearing sunscreen. That's just what it is. The sunscreen word did not exist in our household. But now there's more than one company talking about it. So we're okay with it because there is only one Black girl sunscreen.
That's true. Respectfully, though, I feel like even if they were to try to come for you in whatever aspect or try to come for the brand by developing their own products, I personally feel that the empowerment that you created around the brand is no competition for that. So even if they try to dabble in that market, you have a large advantage in the fact that they can't make somebody feel empowered by putting on their overall brand sunscreen. When you put this on, you're gonna feel that empowerment
Right.
that they can't replicate.
Right. No, that's facts. That's facts. But you do have that consumer that's like, why should I wear a product that just says Black girl? Like, why can't it just be for all? So there's so many different perspectives. Now I'm being really honest with you. There's just so many different perspectives. But yeah, we people, we're like, oh, we see you.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And we just keep it moving.
That's tough. So I guess my final question for you today, because I know you're very busy, is if you could give one piece of advice to a young adult who wants to pursue entrepreneurship, what would it be?
I got 2 pieces. I got 3 pieces.
Oh, the more the merrier. Nah, you can give as much as you want. We love it.
I got 3 pieces just because you learn and you grow, and hopefully you should be learning and growing in everything that you do, right? So my first piece of advice is to clear out the minutia, and what I mean by that is, for you started a podcast, and you might have somebody that says, "What about this? What about this? What about this? Are you sure on that?" And you in your internal self is like, I want to do this, right? So what I encourage someone when they have an idea is to just do that shit and block that out, block that mother out or that sister out or that friend out, and you try it, right? So it's more than just saying that you have an idea. It's actually about implementing it, following through. My little sister, she has a baby, and she's like, oh, I created this toy because he's teething and yada, yada, yada. I had the drawing. I said, okay, what's next? What's next? Do we need to find somebody that can create this toy? Is it going to be developed stateside or, overseas? Like, what's the next step? So really it's twofold on that first piece. It's clear out any other thing that is telling you not to do it, right? Because for whatever reason, they can't do it. And only few people actually succeed at successful entrepreneurship. You're laughing, but I'm being so dead ass.
I know.
Right? So so clear that out. And then the next thing is to actually do what you say you're gonna do. Right? You are here ready to go. You are on time, Kyle. You got your headphones on, you got your microphone looking real professional. Let's go. Let's get these interviews up, right? So you're implementing. It's no longer an idea, right? You're not even doing it on an app where a lot of people start off, and that's okay. You progress. You like Zoom. Let's go face to face, right? So you can actually create, you can create videos, do highlights. So that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is consistency. So I come from a very corporate background where it was extremely competitive, but I always stayed on the top. We didn't have bad months, and I didn't have bad years. I consistently brought results. So what does that mean for you? You can't just so if your podcast is a weekly podcast, do weekly recordings, right? Or you knock all your recordings out or whatever in a couple of days, but you post weekly, right? Or if it's going to be quarterly, whatever it is, you're kind of why am I losing my word? Whatever your plan is, right? Whatever your schedule is. So, being consistent. So if you're an influencer, then post your stuff regularly, right? So with this entrepreneurial journey, it's about really following through everything that you're saying that you're gonna do. Lead by example. Be consistent with that, right? So first we're like, okay, clear out the noise, implement your whatever it is, your service or your product, be consistent with that. And then my third piece of advice is when you get there is keep composure. So my mantra is never get too high and never get too low, because at the end of the day, this is just business, right? So never get too high means like, okay, cool. You've got 100 episodes, which would be a nice milestone for you. That's a lot of hours, okay? A lot of editing. So cool, that's a great day. But then you might have a day where your technology is just not right. Or maybe the guest is like, Kyle, I don't know him. He just, nah, I don't want to do that, right? And it might get you down. But really, if you're kind of keeping even keel with this, like nothing is really gonna make you not humble. So so those are always really important to how I maintain my sanity during this journey.
Got you. Thank you so much for this interview today. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead. Is it okay if I leave your social media and stuff in the link for the video that I post?
Of course.
Okay, I got you. And go ahead. Don't forget, guys, follow Blackatalyst on everything. I'll put the links for us down below as well.